Hello everyone, welcome to PRP Coding YouTube channel. I am Raveendran Pillai. In this session, I shall explain about the importance of unit test method naming and how to parameterize xUnit test methods. So let's start. In the Getting Started with xUnit Testing session, we learned what is unit testing, what is the importance of unit testing, how to unit test a .NET class library project using xUnit, what is the order of execution of xUnit tests, and how to perform the xUnit test setup and cleanup. In this session, I shall explain the importance of unit test method naming and how to parameterize xUnit test methods. Naming standards are important because they explicitly express the intent of the test. A good test case name should be clear and concise, conveying the main objective and scope of the test. Just by looking at the suite of unit tests, you should be able to infer the behavior of your code without even looking at the code itself. Additionally, when tests fail, you can see exactly which scenarios don't meet your expectations. Now, let me explain about naming unit test methods. The name of our test should consist of three parts: the name of the method being tested, the scenario under which it's being tested, and the expected behavior when the scenario is invoked. So now, let's see whether we have followed all the naming steps in the test methods of calculator test class. For that, let me flip to Visual Studio. Let's take this add test method and check whether it has followed all the three unit test naming steps. The first step is that the name of the test should consist of the name of the method being tested. In this case, we are testing the add method of the calculator class. The name of the unit test contains the name of the method being tested. So the first step is followed. Now, let's see what's the second step. The name of the test should consist of the scenario under which it's being tested. Is the add test is adding two numbers or three numbers or n number of numbers? It's not mentioned. Is it is adding integer numbers, double numbers, or decimal numbers? That's also not mentioned. So the second step is not followed here. Now, the last step is the name of the test should consist of the expected behavior when the scenario is invoked. In this case, there is no idea about the return type of the expected result. So now, let me rename this test so that it will satisfy all the three steps. So let me rename this test as add underscore should add two integer numbers underscore and should return an integer. Now, if you look at this test method name, it clearly says that this add method should take two integer numbers and it should return an integer. Now, let me go and make this change in all other tests. So here also, so let me copy this code, copy this name of the test, and here I can paste it and then I can rename it. So here I can say subtract should subtract two integer numbers and should return an integer. Similarly, for multiply, so here also I can say multiply should multiply two integer numbers and should return an integer. So similarly for the divide test also, I can say divide should divide two integer numbers and should return an integer. Okay, so now let's go and open the text explorer and run all these tests. So let me go to the test and open the test explorer here, and let me expand. And here you can see that all the test methods are shown over here. And let me click on run all test. And here you can see that all the tests got passed. Now, if you look at all the 4 unit tests, the calculator object creation code is repeated 4 times. So if you look at the subtract method, it is repeated in the multiply method and in the divide method. To avoid this code duplication, let's move this code to the test setup area. In xUnit, the test setup area is the class constructor. So let me go and create an class constructor here. So for that, I can use the shortcut ctor. And here, let me copy this code and paste it over here. Okay. And let me go and remove this code. Okay, let me take this and let me paste this also here. And let me remove this line of code. Okay, so similarly, let me remove this step 1 from subtract, multiply, and divide. Okay, now there's a problem. Here we are getting an error. And what is that error? The name calculator object under test does not exist in the current context. Why? That's because we created the object of the calculator in the constructor. But this object, I mean the scope of this calculator object underscore test variable is available only inside this constructor here. Now, if you want to access calculator object under test in all the test methods, what we can do here is you create a calculator. Here I can say object under test and remove this one. Now this variable is available in all the methods in this particular class. In the constructor, we have initialized to a new object of calculator, and now I am able to access the calculator object under test in all the 4 test methods. Now, it is not mandatory to have the arrange step in the test method itself. You can have the arrange step in the test initialization also. In this test method, here you can see that I have passed 5 and 5 as input to the add method. Now, what if I want to pass 2 negative integers? In that case, developers usually create another method with the name like add underscore should add 2 negative integer numbers and should return a negative integer. However, if you try and write tests for the rest of the cases in the same fashion, the test class will soon be cluttered with the seemingly exact same code. To avoid code repetition and to keep the test cases readable, we should reuse a single test with multiple different parameters. Is it possible to pass parameters in xUnit test methods? Let's check it out. Let me add a parameter here. Let me say int first number. Immediately we got an error. It's a red squiggly. It says that fact methods cannot have parameters. Remove the parameters from the method or convert it into a theory. In xUnit, test methods are divided into 2 categories, fact and theory. Test methods with fact describe the test without any parameters, and those with theory expect some input data to run the test. Now, what is this theory? Every theory method is decorated with a theory attribute. So now let me go and replace this fact with a theory attribute. Still, we got an error. If I hover here, you can see theory methods must have test data. Use inline data, member data, or class data to provide test data for the theory. There are multiple ways to pass data into a theory. They are inline data, member data, or class data. In this demo, I shall explain inline data. Inline data is provided in the form of inline data attribute for each test case. So here I need to pass an attribute named inline data. Okay. Now there is a red squiggly again. Why? Inline data must contain all the parameters that the method accepts and decorates a theory method. So here this method is taking one parameter. So here we need to pass one value. So here I can say 5. Now this 5 will be assigned to this first number. Similarly, let me go and add one more parameter int second number. Now it's an error. Again, here we need to pass one more parameter. Now this 5 is assigned to the second number. Now let me go and add one more parameter int expected, let me say expected result. Okay.
And here I can pass 5 plus 5 is 10. So here I can say this is 10. Now, what I'm going to do here is, in the add, instead of passing 5 and 5, I can pass first number and second number. Now, this int expected result is not required because I have already defined the expected result here. Okay, so let me scroll. Here we have the expected result. Now, here I can say assert dot equal expected result and actual result. Now let me pass one more inline data. This time I want to test the sum of two negative integer numbers. For that, let me add the inline data. Here I have added minus 5, and the expected result is minus 10. xUnit treats every inline data case as a unique test and will run it separately. Let's prove that. For that, let me go to the test explorer. And here you can see that I am able to expand this add should add two integer numbers and should return an integer. If I hover this, here you can see that it is taking first number 5, second number 5, and expected result is 10. And if I hover this one, it says first number is minus 5, second number is minus 5, and the expected result is minus 10. So let me right click, and here I can say run. So this will go and run all the tests inside this. And here you can see that both the tests got passed. Hence, we proved that xUnit treats every inline data case as a unique test and will run it separately. Now, let me go and implement the theory and inline attributes for the subtract, multiply, and divide unit test methods. Similarly, I have added the theory and inline data for the subtract, multiply, and divide methods. So here you can see that I have used 5, 5, 5 minus 5 is 0. Then I have minus 5, minus 5, that is also 0. Now when it comes to multiply, so 5 into 5, so it's 25. Minus 5 into minus 5, that is also 25. And let's go to the division. 5 divided by 5, the expected result is 1. And minus 5 divided by minus 5 is also 1. Now, let me switch to the text explorer. Now, before I switch, a total of 8 test cases should be there. So one test is having 2 test cases. Similarly, we have 4 methods. So 4 into 2, 8 test cases should be there. Now, if I switch the text explorer, here you can see that calculated test, and in the bracket, we have 8. And if I expand, each test is having 2 test cases. If I click on the divide, on the multiply, on the subtract also. Now let me right click on this test and click run. And here you can see that all the test cases got passed. So this is all about the importance of unit test method naming and how to parameterize xUnit test methods. If you find this video helpful, then please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and stay tuned for the next xUnit test updates. Thank you.